Like this Hassan. Hey everybody, welcome on in. Interesting rally. You can see the point where somebody got information, they started trading. Like you could see it. You could literally see the inside information happening. And then all of a sudden limit buy orders, or excuse me, market buy orders. Did I catch the Hassan Zoran stream live? Part of it. Trump bot calls and he's gonna announce the pause soon. I mean, why the fuck not, right? Trump is considering a 90-day pause of tariffs for all countries except China. I wonder why only China is secluded. God damn it, they're so fucking... This is it? This is what they're trading on? This must... Is it on... maybe it's on CNBC? Apparently they're hoping for a rate cut. That's just not... They're not gonna do that. What the fuck is... This is... batshit crazy, chat. What the fuck is going on? What the fuck is going on? Little Bear, thank you.
Maybe.
Yeah, Megan, again, so I just want to, like, we're trying to find out where this was said, whether it was on another network. It may have been a while ago, though, this morning. I don't know what you know. I'm just trying to understand why the S&P turned the way it did, at least based on the timing of the interview that I think Hassett had with Fox, I think it was.
Absolutely. We're doing the same thing. And the White House, the White House so far not confirming this. So we have to wait and see where this came from and whether he said it directly.
Literally.
And our Eamon Javers is at the White House right now trying to track all of that down. So we will have to see. Maybe it went directly to the wire services, for example. If this was simply a continuation of the discussion we heard over the weekend, then it certainly doesn't mean any decisions have been made. I'll also flag, guys, we're going to hear from the White House just around 11 a.m. and then again 2:30 p.m. today. So more chances for the president himself to try to clarify whether he is in fact thinking about a delay or whether he's exactly where he was on Truth Social this morning and saying that he's in this for the long haul and urging people to just be patient.
It also gets into the question, and there was a lot of discussion about this weekend, which is who's calling the shots, who has the president's ear, who's making decisions, who's in the room, who's outside of the room. Like, clearly, Peter Navarro is a big influence right now. And
somebody heard, oh, they're pausing the tariffs, and then they just ordered the people to buy everything, and then people are going like, wait, there's no actual proof that's true. Look at this stupid fucking stock market. All right, hold on. I'm sorry, chat. Welcome on in. Happy Monday to the Central Committee stream with your host, Mike from PA. This is the home of Mike Was Right. The stock markets around the world crashed over the course of Monday. We finally have the American stock market opening, and it is a huge... It started off the day with a huge drop. Then on rumors that Donald Trump was reconsidering the tariffs, there was a massive spike. And then, as further clarification has continued, the stock market is now selling off from that spike. This is legitimately... I never hear anyone on Twitter left mention Robert Evans from It Could Happen Here. Did he do something up, or is he just too much of an anarchist? Gosh, I seem to remember him being associated with some sort of CIA organization. Maybe I'm just totally wrong, but I remember him being associated with some sort of CIA organization, CIA front group. Bellingcat, yeah, that sounds about right to me. Like, in other words, He is like a controlled opposition anarchist type, anarcho-NATOist type. And it's crashing again. God damn it, chat. Now, nobody knows what the fuck is going on. I don't think anyone knows shit. They're trying to flop the dead cat. Yeah, of course they are. Of course they are. Of course they fucking are. Okay, this is the home of the most correct political stream on the planet, the Mike from PA stream here on the Central Committee. Welcome on in. I legitimately called it. I bought a Tesla 2025 put at 245 raffle. Did you really? Okay, chat. I have basically been predicting that Tesla would crash. God, did anyone ever clip the predictions I made of Tesla crashing in December? I wish I did, because I basically was like, oh yeah, this is a total bubble. This is crazy. And since that point, it's crashed. Somebody that said they bought a 225 put at 245, you have probably, what, at 10x'd your money? What have you done? What have you done? Somebody in the chat claims to have bought a Tesla 225 put. A Tesla 225 put. Oh shit, what was your strike? What was your strike? What was the strike that you had? Also, last week I was speaking about looking at the VIX, and if the VIX rises to above 40, that's a sign of a whoa, ho, ho, hey, ho. The VIX is volatile. Oh my lord. Looking at the historical VIX, we are now higher than it got during the Great Recession. Now, I think there was spikes intraday of 89. I remember that day. Intraday spike up to 89. Nobody at the White House is aware of a 90-day pause. And the crash is back on. All right, chat, I'm sorry. This has been a very, very funny day.
Will be cured in time.
Jeremy, thank you. Jeremy Siegel, obviously Professor Siegel, with us for some very interesting moves in the market. If you're just joining us, of course, we started the session right near the lows, although off where the futures had indicated if you were up at 4 a.m. this morning. That said, we came back, roaring back on what we have been unable to confirm were at least headlines, perhaps, indicating the idea of a 90-day pause on the tariffs might be considered by the White House. And again, Eamon Javers, you just heard from him. He's there, unable to confirm it, but we will stand by if there is more communication or any communication around that. And we're still positive on the NASDAQ. So a significant rally having taken place, although, again, we're well off the highs of the session but far, far off the lows. As for technology, it's the worst performing sector year to date. It is down over 20%. All the Mag 7 names are trading in bear market territory. That would mean more than 20% off recent highs.
That's not what he said. Is this clip why markets are up? People are reading this as Hassett say there's a 90-day pause in the works. That's not how I hear it. Is there another clip or quote?
No, I think that the president is going to decide what the president's going to decide. There are more than 50 countries in negotiation with the president. We've got the prime minister of Israel coming today. We've had a reach out overnight from Taiwan. And but I would urge everyone, especially Bill, to ease off the rhetoric a little bit. The fact is that say 10% baseline tariff is on what 14% of GDP. That's about how much trade we have, how many imports. And so 86% of GDP is affected by the deregulation and the tax cuts and everything else. And even if you think, and I think a lot of us at the White House think that these economic responses are exaggerated by critics, even if you think that there will be some negative effect from the trade side, that's still a small share of GDP. And so the idea that it's going to be a nuclear winter or something like that is completely irresponsible rhetoric.
So will you do a 90-day pause? Would you consider that?
Or Bill, yeah, you know, I think that the president is going to decide what the president's going to decide. There are.
That was it. He just said yeah as like a what's the word looking for? What's the word for when someone says or ah? There's a word for that. It's like a filler word. Like it just gives you the opportunity to think. And, you know, when you become a public speaker, people teach you to avoid saying and ah excessively because it gets really annoying to hear from your audience's perspective. So what I try to do, I just used it there, but I will say something. That's not what a non sequitur means. Non sequitur is when a conclusion doesn't follow from the premises. That's a non sequitur. I don't know who taught you that non sequitur means filler word, but no, it means when a conclusion doesn't follow from the premises. It's like if I said the sky is blue, the ocean is blue, therefore cheese is red. Like that is a non sequitur. It doesn't follow. Okay. I was lied to. American education. Yeah, I'm sorry. Not onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia is a word that sounds like the sound that is being made. God damn it, people. Oh, we are in deep doo-doo. And it crashed again.
Use chips, the way that we produce hardware, how data centers are built, and the concept that we're actually going to build this in New Jersey, in West Virginia. It could sound in front of a microphone. It's just not reality, and that's why I felt very compelled to speak out. And is it from a stock perspective, it's trying to figure out what the worst case, what could this mean for Apple? We didn't downgrade any of our stocks.
Why not? Why didn't you downgrade it?
It's a great question. The reason is because if I believe this is permanent, then it's game, set, match. But if I believe that this is in some way temporary for a few months or some negotiated, we got to be able to look on the other side.
Coming back to the big question that everybody has and that we were having conversations with all the decision makers or many about this weekend, I'm sure you were having some of the same. Is it a negotiation or is it permanent? Well, is it designed to raise revenue simply and that's really what it's about? Or is it really designed to lower barriers? I don't know.
And for right away, just for this, Street already 5 to 7% cut to numbers. If right now they announced the deal, you'd already cut numbers just based on the uncertainty.
What if they don't announce a deal? What happens to the earnings of Apple?
Well, first, I don't think any company gives guidance on the calls, but I think Apple, if they didn't, you could be looking at 10 to 15% cuts. If this continues for months, just given the cost structure, then you start to look for a lot of these. You could be looking at 20, 25% cuts across the board.
On earnings, on EPS.
On earnings and the EPS, just given the actual cost structure. And then it goes to, let's say, on software, where we're more bullish cybersecurity. the self-fulfilling prophecy, given uncertainty, data center, AI revolution, you could cut 15, 20% of that demand right now just based on the uncertainty. And that's why the sad thing, as someone that's such a supporter of U.S. tech for decades, is that what this has essentially done is cut U.S. tech at the knees. It would be like in a baseball game, me coming dugout for the game, like, okay, you're not going to have a catcher. You're not going to have a shortstop and no left fielder. Good luck. You should have a great game. But 3 years from now, I'll get you a catcher or a shortstop. That's the problem.
Right. The other thing in your note about Tesla is the political risk that Musk, you say, has introduced and is going to result in the loss of a future customer base. But that's been going on for a while. So what was it that changed your view on that?
That's been going on for a while? I think CNBC anchors may actually, like, we are entering the period of, how do I put this? When I was growing up, you know, I'm an old head. I'm 40 years old, chat. And when we were growing up, and there were certain words that were in my vocabulary. I'm not proud to say it, but I'm going to admit it. There's certain words that were in my vocabulary. One of them was the R slur. This was the hardest one for me to get rid of as a 40-year-old man. Okay? And I got to tell you that I really don't like ableism. I don't like targeting people that have actual profound disabilities and comparing them to Trump supporters, because most people with intellectual disabilities are smarter and kinder and more emotionally intelligent than the average Trump supporter. So I don't like using the R slur because it's not even really accurate. However, I have to say that I'm being tested. Listening to Asmongold, listening to MAGA supporters, like, in my mind, the word is being conjured up. And then I'm like holding myself back going, no, that's not the word to use. That's not correct. It is very difficult to not cancel myself. Like, I am literally on the border of being canceled because the profound stupidity, like stupid, moron, dipshit, idiot, it doesn't feel strong enough. You know, like when I'm talking about being angry, I can say furious, apoplectic, enraged, right? Mad. But when I'm talking about the profound, moronic, cretinous stupidity of the average MAGA guy at this point, the words that come to my mind, I've been getting little mini Fs. I think I need to update. I think there's something going on with my Intel CPU. I updated my BIOS, but I feel like it was still fried. You know what I mean? Like, it was fried from the bad Intel shit. Intel BIOS crap. I mean, Troglodyte is good. Imbecile is good. But it just doesn't feel strong enough. It really doesn't. And I'm struggling.
Is going to decide. I mean,
right. It's not
your best guess as to whether or not the wires
oh my God, it's
tried to reheat that conversation.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you could be parsing that very sentence there, but that's Kevin Hassett saying, you know, who knows, right? That's not the president. Kevin Hassett saying the president's going to consider this pause. That's Hassett just punting on the question, basically, and moving forward, because all the White House advisors are in a position here where they know what the president's intent is. They know the agenda here on tariffs and how important the tariffs are to the president, but they also know that there are giant financial pressures on the whole system right now, and the president may change his mind at some point. Who knows in the future? So they don't want to kind of leave that possibility totally off the table, even as they're signaling that the president is full steam ahead on this.
Eamon, thank you.
You bet.
Eamon Javers. Dan, just to wrap up with you, we didn't get to Tesla, which you've also obviously are concerned about for any number of reasons. Elon Musk, perhaps more outspoken than any other CEO, although he really didn't say too much, but he did go at Peter Navarro. I got to believe he's concerned, and deeply so, about Tesla in terms of his own manufacturing, how much they have to import for parts and things of that nature. But, you know, let's move beyond the political side of the Tesla equation and just what the tariff side means for the company.
Yeah, and what the biggest worry is in China. I mean, in terms of more and more, given the retaliatory that we see, you'll see more China domestic by BYD, NIO, and others. And then you look at ultimately what this could do to their cost structure. And my whole worry with Tesla is that this now has turned into a life of its own, and the tariffs, ironically, become a bigger and bigger headwind for Tesla, especially when you start to look at the China market and you look at everything BYD is doing. And that's why, you know, this is really a perfect storm between the political brand tornado F5 that he's created, along with the political symbol, and now the tariffs. That's why it's a dark day. But the reason that we remain bullish is because of autonomous and robotics and the future. If it wasn't for that, we'd have to downgrade the stock.
The future of manufacturing, autonomous.
There is literally no evidence that Elon Musk has any credibility on any of those things. The idea that Tesla's going to have a self-driving fleet that's going to make a lot of money, even if it were true, that Teslas actually were self-driving. You have to buy a Tesla, which is a huge fucking capital outlay, then you have to set it out into the world, right? With no driver. You know what the thing that drivers do? Drivers are free surveillance. You're sending people. So how do you think people are going to act when there's no driver in the car? It's going to result in more damage done to the car. Like, people are not even really considering all the things that having a person there does. People also, as much as people like to complain about it, they like having a driver. They like having a bartender. They like having a waitress. We are social animals. We like other people. Even when we lie to ourselves because we get a little bit of social anxiety, right? That's also part of it. Being a social animal, we care what the other social animals think about us. So we have social anxiety because we evolved to be concerned when we were failing in social situations, right? Because failing in social situations was deadly for us during most of our species history. You couldn't be a weirdo little shut-in basement dweller. Being a hermit was unusual, right? And so 90-day pause is fake news. And so anyway, what I'm trying to say is self-driving car. So you got to buy the fucking car. You have to actually get it out on the street. And then are you going to make any money? It's going to be hyper competitive. like, what are you talking about? And whatever self-driving is, it is programming code, which means it's going to get stolen, right? If self-driving can exist with the devices and sensors we already have, it's just lines of code. It's going to get copied. It's going to get hacked. It's going to get stolen. So you're going to have a situation where even if Tesla delivers full self-driving to replace taxis, it doesn't make it free. I actually think that would signal a crash for Tesla, because people would realize just how much of an overhyped, dumb fucking thing it actually is, and it doesn't make fucking money. Incredible.
Do not become secondary, even while the market is out there betting on 4 rate cuts. I think it might be aggressive.
Yeah, market telling you that the growth worries outweigh the risk.
You're talking about China. You're talking about the country with the best foreign intelligence services and cyber criminals and cyber hackers on the planet. They will get your shit by getting someone hired at Tesla to go in there and fucking steal it. Like, you are not talking about, I'm not talking about some guy hacking it in his laptop. I'm talking about actual spies.
the existing data, which, as you say, the employment data can be lagged, but then also the outlook for both, and decide that, hey, over time, it's going to take longer, for example, for the jobs numbers to come back to our mandate than it is the inflation number, and they would side on it. But I think the issue, Sarah, there was one other thing that the chair said, which is he said inflation in coming quarters. That spoke to me of, I don't know, he's looking at 6 months of lousy inflation data if you take it literally. So then you have to ask yourself the question, when does the Fed feel like there's an all clear to cut rates because it feels confident about the inflation outlook? The market's looking for rate cuts as soon as June. I think June is further than 6 months away.
The other thing, Steve, I wanted to get you on was your post over the weekend speaking of employment and employment in manufacturing, is the number of manufacturing jobs that we might be poised to lose in the event of a recession, even though this entire policy is all about bringing manufacturing back.
Yeah.
If you don't have an algorithm, the key to unlock the core of a software, you can't manipulate it no matter what, like change the core. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the, oh my Jesus Christ. I'm talking about the idea that even if Tesla came up with full self-driving, it would instantly have competition that would reduce all of the economic advantage to zero. So even if they crack it, it's not going to be something that they are able to make unlimited profits doing. It is just hype. It is just hype. Mike, what the fuck is this shit? It's just, this just seems to be misinformation. This, as far as I can tell, this just seems to be misinformation for fun. Until somebody can show me something different. And if this actually happened, I would market buy puts on the S&P 500. Like if Donald Trump was like, yeah, we should default on our debt, I would just market buy puts immediately. I would go over here, I would click S&P 500 on Fidelity or whatever the fuck account, or Robinhood, and just go market buy put. Like this would basically mean the US dollar is like I don't know, I would also try to buy euros if I could. I love you, Batman. Your pathetic husband is humiliating himself in front of the entire world. He will leave you and perhaps all of us very soon. When you're done mourning, you know my address. Doors unlocked. Space heaters on. First snuggles free. Brace Belden is on a legendary, like this is, you know how some of us watch LeBron James and we go, how could a 40-year-old man be at the top of his game physically? That's how I feel about Brace Belden in posting. Ovechkin just took the NHL record for most goals in a career. That's how I feel about Brace Belden. These are called sports analogies if you're a typical leftist. I'm using the analogy of sports competition and individual achievement to compare to Brace Belden's individual achievements in posting. We call that a sports analogy. This is BYD's new $80,000 car. It raises and lowers itself to avoid colliding with shit on the road or overhead automatically. I want a BYD so badly, I don't even know what to say. Also, it can like almost park sideways. Like, look how it's, because it's spinning the wheels in opposite directions. So it can get itself in there. BYD so bad, chat. G, sponsor me. I barely drive at all, but for the 6,000 miles a year I drive, I'll tell you, it'll be fucking, I'll look so cool. I just got back from Uruguay and they are everywhere. I got to drive my uncles and it feels like a car straight out of the future. Yeah, America is falling behind because we hate communism so much. And like, this is the thing that is so embarrassing is like, you know, when China was poor and underdeveloped because we have engaged in, you know, 80 years of blockade and war on that country. And the moment we're like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't be so mean to the Chinese. They grow faster than any other economy in human history. Do you guys know that? That under the Communist Party of China, the economy of China has improved faster than any other place in the history of humanity. Like, no one could even compare. I think the funniest thing for me is that the Communist Party of China is the best management for capitalism. Like, communists know how to manage capitalists better than capitalist politicians, which of course makes sense, right? Of course it makes, like, Dengism being proven pretty much right, or at least post-Dengism under Xi. I think of Xi as kind of a post-Dengist. I don't know if I consider Dengism to be working per se. I would just say that the command economy of the Soviet Union and the early Chinese Communist Party, we didn't have the data. We didn't have the information collection tools to appropriately manage the economy like that. Like they did a lot of really good shit, but there was some problems with, you know, especially light industry and consumer goods. The national news on China. Come on.
甲亢哥来中国了。这位美国 YouTube 坐拥3700万粉丝的顶流主播，近日开启了中国行。甲亢哥本名小达伦·沃克金斯，由于他直播时情绪亢奋、表情丰富、肢体语言疯狂，被中国网友戏称为“甲亢哥”。2022年，他开始全球边走边播，前往世界各地，已经直播了大约25个国家，在游玩中感受地域文化，成了他的特色直播栏目之一。3月24号落地中国上海后，短短1周时间，甲亢哥已经在微博上创造了近30个总榜热搜。对于外国人来说，原地飞跃飞驰的超跑让他被人熟知。甲亢哥被国内网友熟知，主要是因为听到中国歌手大张伟创作的歌曲《阳光彩虹小白马》后的反应。他第一次听到这首歌里面那个的歌词，让他大为震惊。在他们的语境中，这个发音含着极不友好的意味。然而，当他了解歌词的真正含义，了解了中国人的语境，他变得不再气愤。上海落地后，开心的和粉丝。
They're explaining I show speed to Chinese boomers. The 21st century is real.
进行大合唱。作为00后顶流主播，甲亢哥拥有大量的年轻粉丝。不同于以往的直播，初到中国的他虽然还是夸张的表情，但却略显小心。为了让直播更有信服力，更是采用不间断直播，一镜到底，长达5-6个小时。
A single continuous shot live stream lasting 5 or 6 hours. Honestly, like, what he did with that live stream in China has, like, I legitimately, as somebody who has been a China supporter for a long time, not like some outright supporter, but normal about China, As somebody who's been normal about China for a long time, and almost every other Westerner being completely insane about China, as somebody who's just been like, well, you know, China is actually pretty good at a lot of things, and it's a pretty nice country, and the Chinese people are pretty nice. There's nothing, they're not our enemy. Just being that normal towards China and receiving the amount of hate I got for that. And then just seeing, oh, iShowSpeed goes and does a stream and people go on Red Note and it's like, oh yeah, Mike was completely right. And everybody kind of realizing, I don't know how to describe the feeling. Like, you know, where it's like, oh yeah, the Chinese soft power has improved so much.
It is kind of funny that people in America learning about China for the first time through iShowSpeed. Oh yeah, chat, it's crazy. Like, you know, like iShowSpeed China stream now is on news, on like China news. It's insane. Like, you know, I think for some people who doesn't really know like streaming, like, you know, my mom or whatever, these older generations, that they all know about Speed now because he's everywhere on news. He's like on CCTV news, he's on like Sichuan news, he was on like travel, like touristy some shit news. It's like all over the place.
The CIA is absolutely fuming. You're so right. Condemn hummus. Have you ever tried Chinese beer? I actually haven't tried Chinese beer. iShowSpeed being a cultural ambassador, like, this has always been one of the best strategies for disrupting. Okay, so there is more rumors about the tariffs.
So you're saying
it's going to lag?
家看哥虽然不会中文，但交流起来似乎并不存在文化壁垒。抵达北京后。
And it's so funny because like 3 months ago, Hassan was like, oh, Mike from PA, more like Mike from Beijing. And now he's like, oh, I always loved China. And it's like, bitch. You called me the China Glazer. Now suddenly you love China. Suddenly he loves China. I suspected it before, but now I'm sure of it. The Speed China's visit is being curated by the government to show off China to young Westerners. No regular tourists would just show up and have all these chance meetings and opportunities fall into their laps. He's one of the biggest streamers in the world, you fucking idiot! Of course he has good producers and he has connections to millions of people around the world, you dumb... Do you know what 1 million people means? He has 38 million followers. Do you get what that means, you dumb piece of shit? People are coming out of the woodwork to show him shit because of his audience, because of his clout. I'm sure he has a really great team around him. And the other, so like, what are you talking about? Yeah, and I want to tell you something. Yes, you're absolutely right. Not that he's being paid. You're absolutely right that the Communist Party of China is like, oh, we have a American live streamer, which gives us the opportunity to show off our country, not through the lens of propaganda. And of course they're like, please go, you know, break the stereotypes about how Chinese people are all like automatons with no freedom and hate life. And that China is some poor third world slave sweatshop country. If you didn't lie so blatantly about China, then this wouldn't be so surprising to Americans. The United States has a chance to do something that should have been done decades ago. Don't be weak. Don't be stupid. Don't be a panickin'. A new party based on weak and stupid people. Be strong, courageous, patient, and greatness will be the result. He tweeted this. Don't be a panickin'. Also, someone made a compilation of how IShowSpeed's bodyguards were super relaxed in China after they almost got ganged on in Brazil, scammed in Vietnam, and someone ripped his hair in Europe. Yeah, of course, because China is the safest country in the world. Like, duh.
Only got a few seconds left, but people are throwing around the R word, and they see the Dow down 2,100 points, and people
are throwing around the R word. Yeah, I'm throwing around the R word in my mind whenever I see a Republican speaking. I'll be honest, I am throwing around the R word as well. All right, where the fuck were we? Okay, we're watching CNBC.
All of our policy or keep part of it with no future payments. Who knew? We sold our policy. Now we can relax and enjoy our retirement as we had planned.
If you have $100,000 or more of life insurance, you may...
I hate boomers so fucking much. I hate boomers. I hate them. I hate them. I hate them. I gotta say, do you know what this ad was for? This is an ad for boomers who had a life insurance policy, selling their life insurance policy to a for-profit corporation instead of having life insurance for their family when they die. So instead of going like, oh, my children will get $100,000 for me to help, as a gift, as a bequest, as a legacy, the boomers are selling their life insurance policy and making a corporation their beneficiary so they can spend more money. I don't even know what do boomers even do? What the fuck do they even do at this point? You're so old. Can you even golf? I am an anti-boomer. I'm anti-boomer. Raise your hand if you're anti-boomer. I'm anti-boomer. I think the boomer generation is the worst generation in the history of humanity. I think they're the most self-congratulatory, greedy, self-centered, civilizational destroying, greedy, fucking self-centered, delusional liars. They are the worst generation. And I mean, listen, Gen X is pretty bad too, because they're just boomer light. But boomers are the fucking absolute worst generation by far in the history of humanity. They took America. They were handed America with 40% unionization rate, the Great Compression, where the gap between the rich and the poor was the smallest, where America was a world superpower, where we had social benefits for everybody, including like cash welfare. When boomers were born, the greatest generation had created a welfare state where if you got down on your luck, they would give you money every month. There was social housing, there was public housing, there was all sorts of benefits to help people get on their feet and get a good union job. College was free or nearly free in most of the country. And they absolutely destroyed it all.
Sarah, that's right. Important to separate what we're actually hearing from real sources from, Twitter nonsense. But look, here's what we can say. Kevin Hassett was on Fox. He's the National Economic Council director earlier today. The anchor person on Fox asked him if the White House would consider a 90-day pause. And then here's what Hassett replied. We have the text here to show the exact answer of what he said. He said, I think that the president is going to decide what the president is going to decide. So that's not a no, and it's certainly not a yes. That is Kevin Hassett punting on a question that he didn't have the answer to. Why didn't he have the answer to it? Well, because the president, as you've said, Sarah,
social credit system is not real in China. You know that's not real, right? That's just made up. You know who has a social credit system? The United States. We call it the credit score. And if you have a bad credit score, you don't get to have a house. You don't get to have a car. Do you know who the credit system is in America? It's for how much the banks like you. How much profit have the banks made off of you? It's the bankers, do the bankers love you score. If the bankers love you, then you get to live a good life. In America, you're literally enslaved by the capitalist class, and the capitalists give you a good citizen score, and you're talking about China? We literally have how much does the banker like you score, and it determines your entire life. And you're complaining about China's made up social credit score, which doesn't exist. What is wrong with you? Are you a peasant?
Steve, from people that he trusts, and is there any sign that he's listening to them? Because I can't imagine anyone in the world of business or investing is on board with this.
Yeah, that's a really good question, Sarah. And my sense is that he did.
Does China not have a credit score? From what I understand, China has, oh, fuck, there's a term for it, but basically it's like, it's like an individually underwritten. I'm not a mortgage expert, in the sense, I mean, I am compared to all of you, but it's like individual underwriting, where basically the bank investigates you and finds out what your income is, what your assets are. You know what you know, they like investigate you and they make an individualized determination of your credit worthiness. Whereas in America, credit scores are not that old. I think they were made in 1984, right? When was the credit score developed? History of credit scores in the America. Maybe it was 1989. I was a kindergartner. So I was alive for 5 years, chat, before FICO scores started. I was literally born into an America without credit scores.
15% tariffs on them.
That's
they came
crazy.
back and they said no tariff barriers.
I'm older than credit scores.
From
That's
Israel to
crazy.
the United States. So if there is a negotiation to be had, you would think it would be with a country that is willing to take away all of the trade barriers. So that could be the litmus test.
Israel said zero tariffs before the president put the tariffs on, and the president put the tariffs on them anyway. Right? So what you heard Peter Navarro say on CNBC this morning is it's not just, in his view, about getting down to zero.
Wait, 89? I'm older than you? No, I said I was born before 89.
Zero tariffs. It's about going below that because this White House sees what they call
I know this is a very narcissistic thing to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. I think I was literally born in the best time. I think I know that America's crumbling and everything seems to be shit. I think I was born in the time that I was meant to be born in this time. That's what I mean to say. I think I was meant to be born in this time. This is the time for me. I was never going to be a person that was well suited to a stable, prosperous society. I need to be in a society in transition and change. And I also was born before the internet was really a thing for regular people. Like my brain, I grew up reading books. Like when I was 10 years old, I probably read more books than the average person does in their entire life. And I am grateful that that's true. I'm grateful that I was reading books and the internet, and especially the algorithm didn't exist yet to cook my brain. It's cooking it now, but at least I got to like bake for a little bit before the algorithm came in and destroyed my brain. No wonder you're so pasty. No, I'm pasty because I am Bavarian and Scottish, which are some of the whitest fucking people in Europe. Like my people come from the Alps, and from, you know, the Highlands of Scotland. We're talking about white, okay? So I am reflective at this point. My body cries out for vitamin D, and I say, I lean down and whisper, no.
Look, anything can happen. We are at these rare extremes right now, as you've been talking about, right? One of the biggest two-day drops. All of the things you can look at in terms of how much capitulative-looking selling has happened is there. Now, the problem is you want the moment when almost it doesn't matter what the news is, and the market can maybe find its footing, because nobody can see how this is going to play out.
Italian. Yeah, I have like one relative who's from northern Italy, which is where the nose comes from. Like I have one grandparent who's like half Italian and half German, and that's where the nose comes from. Like, look at this fucking thing. It's like I got one shot with the nose gene. The like Mediterranean nose gene just went got me right in the schnoz. And that's why I have the dark hair too. Dark curly hair. They got me good. Oil prices are down. Interest rates are down. Oil prices are down. Down, he says. Oil prices are down. Oil prices are down. I might actually go long. Because Trump is tweeting so much, I think he might actually cave. I might actually go long. Just for like a short-term pop. Because he's tweeting so much, he must be hurting. He must be feeling the pressure. Miguel, stop. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm not going to actually trade on this shit. Dow is down 200 points in wild session after 1,700 point loss earlier in the session. Now it's down 500 points. This is the most fluctuating ass market. Look at this shit. It's like, woo, 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 woo. This is down, by the way. It opened down like 1,000. And now it's like, woo, 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 or 1,500. Oh my God. Chat, you know what this tells me? Look out below, because we haven't actually capitulated. We haven't actually capitulated. The bottom is in when everybody panics. What was I saying? Okay. Oil prices are down. Okay, I wanted to show you the oil prices. The markets. Where the fuck is the... Okay, there it is. Oil is at $61 a barrel. How the you have to go back to COVID for it to be this low. Man, oil is cheap. I really don't think that oil is... I feel like we were entering the end of oil because of China, and this is another thing that Americans are delusional about. Just like, can we just buy solar panels already? Can we just buy batteries? Like, why make nuclear plants and just get rid of fossil fuels for like electricity? Like, we should not be using oil and gasoline and coal and natural gas for electricity. It should just not exist. Just build a bunch of nuclear plants, build a bunch of solar panels, build a bunch of windmills, build, you know, the high, you know, ultra high voltage direct current lines, crisscross the country, upgrade our grid, bury power lines in wildfire prone regions, you know, harden our grid for like 500 billion or whatever it would be, and just end, like, you know, fix our shit. Like, why is this so fucking hard? A low oil price is not conducive to the exploitation of shale oil in the United States. The cost price of shale oil in the United States is $70 to $80. Yeah, that's the other factor, right? Like, American oil production isn't profitable at this level. Although I've heard $50 is oftentimes the number. But you still want to make profit, you know what I mean? You don't want to break even. Okay. Gas and diesel are great for remote power needs. Well, yeah, well, true, except for the fact that in most circumstances, a like solar grid with batteries is even better. But yeah, yes, you are right about liquid fuels being extremely energy dense. So there is a good case for liquid fuels in certain circumstances. Absolutely right. You know, like that is true. But the idea that, you know, I don't know, Los Angeles should be running off of fucking oil is insane. Build a bunch of nuclear plants in the Nevada desert, put high-speed direct current lines, or high voltage direct current lines from the fucking Nevada desert, bring it down to Southern California, and just stop burning oil and gas and coal. Like what? Like, of course, it's very simple. DC is lossy as fuck, not ultra high voltage. Ultra high voltage DC is not lossy. In fact, it has almost no loss. You guys are just behind the times. You don't know your shit. It's okay. You're here to learn.
They are not pricing those recession odds just quite yet, where I could be saying, look, if there is no recession, it's definitely the bottom. And even if there is a recession, we're now pricing it. That is really what matters to me. That's the one point where I would say, okay, now we could call it, now we could call that a bottom. And we're not quite yet. When we look, for example, at forecast revision momentum, so we sort of track top-down forecast revision momentum and look at that against equities versus rates, or things like cyclicals versus defensives in equities. You look at equities, cyclicals over defensives still have an 8 percentage point gap between that top-down forecast momentum. So there really is still quite a bit of a sizable gap to be undone and unwound by cyclicals, despite Thursday and Friday's meltdown. I think equities overall, let's not forget, the equal-weighted S&P, the average stock by Wednesday last week, was almost flat year to date. So we're literally only talking about a 2-day sell-off of the sort of broader market, and that's not just been enough to really say, right, the recession is now fully priced in.
Yeah, although no ordinary 2-day sell-off. But Max, my question to you is on the rest of the world. So we've seen really sharp declines across Asia and Europe right now. Another day where the DAX is down 3%, Spain's down 4%. I've heard two arguments here. Number one, buy the weakness in Europe because they actually want to stimulate their economies and fight this and trade with other nations more freely. Or there's the view that they're just going to get hit a lot worse than the U.S. no matter what happens. What do you do?
No, I think I buy the rest of the world over the US. So I would argue that actually the US is going to be, at least in the near term, the ones that are harder hit, simply because what we've seen now in the last few weeks is really a confidence and a sentiment shock that has been really put on the US economy, and modeling those confidence and those sentiment shocks is just impossible. We know that is the point where, you know, where growth basically
Chinese equities. Here's what I would recommend you buy for your capitalists: Chinese equities and gold.
Being linear and where it starts getting non-linear. We don't know how bad it could be. Linear, if we just model it with linear numbers, just with...
This is basically saying the dollar, the United States is cooked. This is him saying the United States is cooked without saying the United States is cooked. Yes, buy Eurozone bonds and equities, buy Chinese stocks and gold.
Out of China, where they want to stimulate the consumer a bit more, where really also the comparables with last year on inflation and the top-down macro data are a lot easier. I would much rather be then in consumer stocks and consumer cyclicals in China, where we do see the stimulus, where the comparisons with last year are much easier, rather than in US consumer cyclicals that are now getting hit on.
Mike, what should I do with savings account or something? If you want to know what the historical best thing to do, it's to buy index funds. That's what you should, but don't just buy US indexes. Buy European indexes, buy Chinese indexes, buy US index fund. Like, and you do it over the course, and you do it consistently, and do what's called dollar cost averaging. And you just keep buying at a set amount over a set period, and you just keep doing that. and you don't try to pick stocks, you don't try to time the market. If you do that, historically, that has been the best strategy. And what you should be trying to do is avoid any kind of fees. However, the United States of America is kind of demolishing the world economy, so it might be a while before this pays off. Or it could spring back. Who fucking knows?
The AT&T guarantee. And right now, trade in your...
I legitimately, like, for me, I was right about everything, and I continue to be right about it. Oh my God, it crashed again. How's Tesla doing? Tesla's probably eating shit, right? Yeah, I mean, there you go. Yeah, I mean, Tesla is just eating shit. Like, as we're at, like, are we near, what's the 52-week range? 138? I really think it's gonna, I think they're gonna head back there. I see no reason to believe it won't. Are you also thinking about Airbnb and VRBO owners unloading their assets in the recession? Second wave real, like, here's kind of what I am, what I'm doing with my own personal finances, chat, which is I just save a lot of money. Like, all the excess money I have, I'm currently saving as cash in high yield investment accounts and money market accounts yielding more than 4%. And that is literally what I'm doing because I don't believe in this country or the economy or this administration. Mike, Northern Michigan has been 10 days now with no power and people are freezing to death. No mainstream coverage at all. National Guard is here, but we're struggling. Gretchen Whitmer came to town for a photo op and then left. I'm organizing with my neighbors. My apartment says I have a heater, but I don't know how long I can do this. Yeah, I'm so sorry to hear that, man. As a Pennsylvanian, I know how dangerous cold is. And so don't go to bed shivering. That's my number one piece of advice. And is there any way you guys can, like, get out of there? Do you have any relatives that are out of Northern Michigan that you can get the fuck out of there? One of the things I heard that actually made me very concerned was that Elon wanted to cut LIHEAP. LIHEAP is probably one of the best programs that America does. LIHEAP, if you don't know what this is called the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program. This is probably one of America's best welfare programs. Why is this program so good? Because it sends money to oil and gas companies, among other energy companies. So that means the welfare is fine. If you don't know what this is, basically, if you're really poor and you're going to die of heat or cold, like heat in the summer, or you're going to freeze to death in the winter, you could get a LIHEAP assistance. Well, they will give you emergency money for heating and cooling. In fact, it is an incredible program to prevent people from dying. This is why America doesn't have a lot of people who die from heat or cold, by the way, compared to other Western countries. Because funnily enough, we have one of the best welfare programs for helping people pay for this shit. Now, you have to be really poor. And I heard that Elon wanted to go after LIHEAP, and I found that to be insane. As a Pennsylvanian, we get both super hot. Pennsylvania has the worst weather. I want to explain Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania has 4 hard seasons. What do I mean by that? I mean, it gets extremely cold in the winter, dangerously cold in the winter. It gets dangerously hot and humid in the summer. And during spring, it's a pollen disaster. So 3 out of the 4 seasons is absolute hell. Fall's nice. And, you know, you get some nice days in the spring. And there's some nice days in the summer. But if you live in Pennsylvania, you need to have a very robust HVAC system that can handle between negative 40 and 120 and humid. The entire LIHEAP Trump administration fires staff of program that helps low-income households pay for heat. Well, here's an example of what I'm about to talk about. A driver for Down East Energy delivers heating oil to a home in Portland, Maine. This is exactly what I'm talking about. LIHEAP could do this because some people, especially in the Northeast, some people are still relying on home heating oil. So they have a giant tank of oil, and like trucks will show up full of oil, and they will dump and they will fill up their tanks. What the fuck is home heating oil? It's exactly what it sounds like. The Trump administration has laid off the entire staff of a $4.1 billion program that helps millions of low-income households pay for heat during the winter, unnerving state officials who are now wondering whether they will still receive millions of dollars in expected federal payments. The roughly 24 workers who ran the low-income home energy assistance program were among 10,000 people fired as part of a dramatic restructuring of the Department of Health and Human Services. He said several senior employees who oversee the program, which serves 2.6 million households annually, told him they were locked out of the building after arriving to work Monday. The way they did it, there was no warning, he said. On Thursday, 13 U.S. senators including 2 Republicans. See what I mean? Like, this is probably one of the this is one of the programs that we do to avoid mass death. Because this is the thing that will get politicians murdered. This is actually accelerationism. This is actually accelerationism. There's like a few things that America does to prevent it from being Mad Max. One of them is if you go to the emergency room and you're hurt or really sick, they have to treat you. The other thing is LIHEAP. These are a few of the things they do to like absolutely prevent people from just dying from exposure or dying from like getting hurt in the moment. If they're going after that, we're talking about people just dying on the streets for easily preventable shit. Trump said he would do 50% additional tariffs on China if they do not withdraw their 34% by tomorrow. And the stock market is crashing again. And the stock market crashed again. God damn it, chat. And it's crashing more. Yesterday, China issued retaliatory tariffs of 34% on top of their already record-setting tariffs, non-monetary tariffs, illegal subsidization of companies, and massive long-term currency manipulation, despite my warning that any country that retaliates against the United States by issuing additional tariffs above and beyond their already existing long-term tariff abuse of our nation will be immediately met with new and substantially higher tariffs over and above those initially set. Therefore, if China does not withdraw its 34% increase above their already long-term trading abuses by tomorrow, April 8th, 2025, the United States will impose additional tariffs on China of 50% effective April 9th. Yeah, I'm shorting. Yeah, I'm shorting. Yeah, it's time to short. Yeah. Yeah. Holy fucking hell, the implied volatility on God damn it, dude. I'm from northern Michigan. This shit is so infuriating. I want to run for office. I would love to share my policies to try to get the Republican rep out who isn't even from Michigan. The thing about running for Congress is you probably need to be able to come up with $250,000 from yourself and your friends and family and like supporters. If you have a plan for getting $250,000 into your campaign, then you're set. If you can actually like effectuate it. Oh wow, the Dow is down another 1,000. Wow. And blink it, it's down 1,000.
Of that side while riding on the waves of the decisions and the execution from the last economy. But now we're being met with a whole new set of headwinds, which was a known risk going into this administration. And unfortunately, now we're seeing the impact of that.
What about some of the prognostications? We just heard from Dan Ives, for instance, of Wedbush, who said this is going to put us behind in the race on AI against China. Like serious long-term implications.
I would say too early to sort of say whether that plays out, but the risk of that is very real. You can just kind of imagine the follow-through set of events. All of a sudden, all international trade partners go to China for infrastructure and for AI as opposed to the U.S. because the cost of the U.S.'s offerings is way higher. The U.S. Has a high degree of need for infrastructure components from a lot of these trade partners that we have. Those prices will go up faster than our ability to reshore the manufacturing in the U.S. Interestingly, a lot of the input supplies that we need to reshore manufacturing will actually come from the countries that we're now tariffing. And so you're telling the industrial sector, we need you to build in America. Fine, that makes sense. But now we're going to make the cost of doing so actually higher than any other alternative that you would have. And so that obviously doesn't make any sense. So this puts us at risk. Again, what I think a lot of folks would have done is say, let's lean into the strengths that we have. We are leading in AI. We're leading in global technology. We're leading in life sciences. We have some green shoots in areas like Tesla with self-driving cars and EVs. Double down on all of that. Don't add headwinds and don't add friction in this economy that then slows down and causes the business community to have to deal with a new set of dynamics, as new headwinds.
I know, but I think the president would say that's what he's doing. I mean, he's leaning into all of that, and he's protecting our great tech companies from the Digital Services and Markets Act, which a lot of people think is very protectionist, for instance, in Europe.
Yeah, I mean, one of the other, less sort of talked about issues is that when you actually sort of add up all global trade, including digital services, we end up looking like in a much stronger position. So to that exact point, unfortunately, Europe has negotiating leverage that is not specific to just industrial trade policy, and when that gets added into this, which is why I think we're playing with fire with some of the amount that we're negotiating, because there are other tools that other countries and economies have against us as well, and there's a lot that could play out from here.
Well, it was really good of you to come on and talk.
Well, I wanted to talk about AI. That was so. This was scheduled. This was scheduled before tariffs, and we were here to talk about AI agents and the power of that.
Well, is anything changing on that front?
I think that if
Tell
anything,
us about AI agents.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, this will be all the rage. Once tariff, conversation sort of dies down a little bit, I think we will start to talk way more about the corporate implications that we're going to see from AI, which is more efficiency, more ability to automate more parts of our business. I'm generally an optimist that will actually create more jobs, because as you get business efficiency, you can reinvest back into the talent pool. And so we're going to hear a lot around AI agents and what it means to start to run your company in an AI-first way. That's obviously a lot more, optimistic and exciting than some of the headwinds that we're facing right now. So, certainly hoping that we can get back more to that type of conversation soon in the economy.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
Aaron Levy from Box. We'll turn to overseas markets. European markets closing just a moment ago. Huge declines here, but also a rally off the lows, like we saw with the U.S. markets. And then we fell back down into negative territory. So again, very volatile trading. The German DAX had been down more than 10% at the open, then briefly turned positive before going red again. That's the kind of moves we're talking about. The European Commission president saying, quote, Europe is always ready for a good deal, adding they have.
The VIX is now past 50, chat. 50. An unbelievable number. If you go back to 1991, it only closed higher than this VIX number one time. This means that the volatility, oh, did it just go? Yeah, okay. I was going to say the volatility number. That's unbelievably high. Am I cooked? I mean, I haven't heard of that before. Interesting. China has begun to devalue. Moves are still small, but it's clearly a signal to Washington. After all, the dollar has been falling. So if anything, the yuan should be rising against the dollar to remain stable at trade-weighted terms, but it's falling, and that's a signal. How can you keep paying Putin all this money 3 years after he invaded Ukraine? Because the conservatives in Europe made them dependent on cheap Russian gas. Angela Merkel. So their economy does, what, do they turn off the lights? Like, what are you talking about, man?
Challenge to a recently enacted gun law in New York. The measure bans concealed firearms in sensitive locations such as healthcare facilities, churches, and parks. The decision leaves in place an October ruling from a New York appeals court that largely upheld the law. And Jay North, the actor known for his role as Dennis the Menace, has died. North started playing the title character on the show in 1959 when he was 6 years old. A fellow cast member confirmed the news, saying he died from colorectal cancer. Jay North was 73 years old. Carl, back to you.
Pippa, thank you very much. Coming up after the break, Deepwater Asset Management's Gene Munster's with us on this meltdown on the Mag 7, where he sees opportunity in tech with the sector now more than 20% off the 52-week high.
Plus, mentioned earlier, financials. Names are kind of mixed today, coming off their worst week since March of 2020. That was right during COVID. Morgan Stanley downgrades Goldman Sachs on exposure to recession risk, but upgrades Bank of America, citing its valuation after the downturn. Bank earnings start on Friday. It'll be very interesting to hear the tone from those executives. Money Movers will be right back.
Crypto Watch is sponsored by Crypto.com. Crypto.com is America's
Crypto.com, guys. That website is totally not going to crash. How's Bitcoin doing, by the way? I was told Bitcoin is a good place to go if you're worried about the economy. It's a good store of value. Oh. 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 I mean, it's still pretty inflated. 78,000 is pretty inflated. Man, it really started spiking in 2023, huh? For Bitcoin bulls that self-custody crypto, the global risks are growing. I think a lot of people are in denial with what this means. Things like batteries are made in China. Solar panels are made in China. Like, this is rare earth minerals. Like, the United States of America cannot just not trade with China. Like, we need them more than they need us. This is just objectively wrong. Now, would not trading with the U.S. hurt China's economy? Yes, it would. Yes, it absolutely would. But they don't need us, right? Like, their economy, what would happen is their economy would go down. It would be a recession, right? They would have a surplus of goods, which would cause what? Prices to decrease in China, so that domestic consumption could increase. So the quality of life for Chinese people could go up because there would be greater competition for their consumer dollars because they have all the stuff. And this would lower Chinese goods prices on the global market, making them even more competitive everywhere that isn't the United States.